The Cameron Macaulay case, a child's memories of a previous life. Cameron Macaulay was not an ordinary little boy from Glasgow. When he began telling stories at the age of 2 about a distant Scottish island where he claimed to have lived in a previous life, no one could have suspected that his story would soon become one of the most astounding cases in reincarnation research. This wasn't childhood fantasy. These were Cameron's real memories, originating from an island called Barra, where he had never been in his life. Cameron Macaulay was born on August 23, 2000, near Glasgow, in a completely average Scottish family. His mother, Norma, was a single mother who lived with her 6-year-old son Martin and little Cameron in a grey Glasgow housing estate. Nothing suggested that this family would ever become involved in spiritual mysteries. Norma had no interest in reincarnation and didn't read esoteric books, yet when Cameron began to speak, he immediately said peculiar things. From the age of 2, he told stories about a white house that stood on a seaside island. He said he had lived there with another family, with another mother. The strangest thing was that he called this island Barra, a place that no one in the family had ever heard of. Barra is a distant island in the Hebrides, about 200 miles from Glasgow. Cameron had never been there, and neither had anyone in the family. Vivid memories of an unknown place. Cameron described the White House where he claimed to have lived in vivid detail. He said the house was by the sea, and planes used to land on the beach. He spoke of a black and white dog he was very attached to, and told stories about the house having 3 bathrooms. A strange detail for a small boy to remember. Dr. Jim Tucker, a psychiatry professor at the University of Virginia who continued Dr. Ian Stevenson's work in reincarnation research, commented on Cameron's case. Children often miss their previous families and lives, and insist on being taken to their former homes. As Cameron grew, his memories became increasingly detailed. He spoke about his father, whom he called Shane Robertson, and who had died in a car accident. He talked about his siblings, the neighbors, even the layout of roads on the island. But the most painful moments came when he spoke about his Barra mother, whom he missed so much. The emotional toll. The situation became dramatic when Cameron started kindergarten. He cried daily about his Barra family and told the teachers he wanted to go home, not to Glasgow, but to Barra. Norma became increasingly anxious. "I thought something was wrong with my son," she later confessed. He spoke about these memories with such intensity, as if they had really happened to him. Dr. Chris French, editor of Skeptic magazine, who first studied Cameron's case, initially attributed the stories to childhood fantasy. Children's imagination can be extraordinarily rich and can easily be fed by information from television and the internet, he explained. But Norma knew that Cameron had never seen programs about Barra. Karen Majors, an educational psychologist who examined Cameron's imaginary friends, had a different opinion. Cameron's accounts are very different from usual childhood fantasies, she determined. They're too consistent and too detailed to be merely products of imagination. Scientific investigation begins. In the spring of 2005, a television production company contacted the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, where Dr. Ian Stevenson had been researching reincarnation cases for decades. Stevenson's colleague, Dr. Jim Tucker, agreed to participate in a documentary film. The company advertised for reincarnation cases in Scotland, and Norma Macaulay applied. Tucker first traveled to Glasgow to meet Cameron and his family. The boy, who was 5 years old by then, immediately impressed the researcher. Cameron talked about Barra so naturally, as if he had just moved away from there yesterday, Tucker recalled. The documentary filmmakers decided to take Cameron to Barra to find out if the places he described really existed. In the summer of 2006, Cameron, Norma, Dr. Tucker, and the film crew set off for the Hebrides. The journey to Barra. The trip was astonishing from the first moment. Cameron had described that on Barra, planes used to land on the beach, an extremely unusual thing. And indeed, Barra's airport is the only one in the world where scheduled flights land directly on the seashore, on the sandy Cocklestrand beach at low tide. "I told you it was true," Cameron exclaimed triumphantly when they saw the small plane landing on the beach. This was the first evidence that the boy's memories truly corresponded to reality. With the help of Callum McNeil, a local historian, they tried to find the White House Cameron had talked about. McNeil was initially skeptical. "I don't know any Robertson family on the island," he said, "and I don't know anyone who died the way Cameron describes." But the research continued. McNeil looked more thoroughly into local records and eventually discovered something. In the 1960s, there had indeed been a Robertson family living in the northern part of Barra, in a white house that stood by the sea. This family originally came from mainland Scotland and used the house as a holiday home. Recognition and confirmation. When they found the house, Cameron's reaction said everything. He immediately recognized the entrance gate and confidently walked through every room of the house. He knew exactly where the rooms were, the kitchen, and yes, the 3 bathrooms, which had been considered such a strange detail. The house's former owners confirmed Cameron's memories. Gillian Robertson, who had lived there in the 1960s, acknowledged that they indeed had a black and white border collie dog. Moreover, she also confirmed that they had a black car, exactly as Cameron had described. Dr. Tucker evaluated Cameron's case this way. Quantum physics shows that our physical world may grow out of our consciousness. This view is not just mine, but that of many physicists as well. However, there was one problem. Gillian Robertson knew nothing about any man named Shane Robertson who had died in a car accident. This was the only detail in Cameron's memories that found no confirmation. Scientific and emotional impact. Critics pointed to this as evidence that Cameron's story couldn't be completely true. Some theorized that the boy might have heard about Barra somewhere or seen pictures of it, but these objections were hard to maintain, especially seeing Cameron's behavior. When Cameron saw the house and walked through the rooms, he became sad. "I miss my Barra mother," he said in a tearful voice. It was clear that these memories were real to him and had a deep emotional impact. Dr. Tucker explained Cameron's behavior. For Cameron, these memories are completely real and affect him emotionally. The visit ultimately proved to have a therapeutic effect. Cameron was reassured that he could prove the reality of his memories. Science is slowly beginning to acknowledge that there are phenomena that traditional physics cannot explain. According to Dr. Tucker's research, about 70% of children claim to have died violent or unexpected deaths in their previous lives. Global recognition and study. Cameron's case is studied worldwide. The BBC documentary that presented his story, titled "The Boy Who Lived Before," touched millions. The film highlighted that reincarnation might not just be a matter of spiritual belief, but a scientifically investigable phenomenon. Dr. Ian Stevenson, who researched reincarnation cases for more than 40 years, considered Cameron's story one of the most convincing pieces of evidence. "We sometimes encounter cases where a child suddenly begins to remember a previous life," he wrote in his final study. "This is often more convincing than adult cases." After the Barra visit, Cameron's memories gradually began to fade. As he grew, he spoke less and less about his previous life. This is a typical phenomenon in reincarnation cases. Children generally lose these memories by the age of 6 or 7. For most children who claim to remember a previous life, these memories disappear by age 6 or 7, explains Dr. Tucker. There's a brief period in early development when the veil between life and death seems thinner. Cameron today and ongoing research. Cameron is now a 25-year-old young man. His Barra memories have long since disappeared, but the story that unfolded around him continues to inspire researchers and people worldwide. In Cameron's case, we may never know the truth about Shane Robertson's existence, but the evidence collected is too strong to consider it merely coincidental. Dr. Tucker continues to research children's memories of previous lives. "I'm not trying to prove reincarnation," he emphasizes, "but openness to the unknown. Maybe that's not so absurd after all." Cameron's story is significant not only for reincarnation research, but for anyone seeking answers to life's great questions. The story suggests that human consciousness may be more complex and durable than we previously thought. We might reach a point where it becomes accepted that consciousness is separate from our physical existence and capable of continuing, believes Dr. Tucker. Although I like to say, I'll probably have to wait for my next life for that to happen. Lasting questions and implications. Critics still debate Cameron's case today, but the evidence is so strong and detailed that it's increasingly difficult to find alternative explanations. Cameron accurately described Barra without ever having been there. He recognized the house, knew details that only someone who had lived there could have known. Children naturally have enormous imagination, so the question is whether what they say corresponds to someone who actually lived and died. And if so, and this is their imagination, then in detailed cases, this is a hell of a coincidence, warns Dr. Tucker. Cameron's case raises profound questions about the meaning of life as well. If we have multiple lives, then every action, every decision might have greater weight. If Cameron truly remembered a previous life, then this means death is not the end, but just a transition. Dr. Tucker's work continues at the University of Virginia, where he has already collected more than 2,500 reincarnation cases. Cameron's story is one of the most astounding among them, but by no means the only one. Worldwide, there are children who have similar memories and who might provide answers to one of humanity's greatest questions. Does consciousness survive physical death? Conclusion. Cameron Macaulay's case proves that there are things in this world that we don't yet fully understand. Perhaps Cameron truly remembered a previous life, or perhaps we encountered some other, equally mysterious phenomenon. But one thing is certain. The story teaches us to approach the unknown with an open mind, and not to close ourselves off from possibilities that exceed our current understanding. Little Cameron, who once told stories about a distant island, is now a grown man. But the story he told has forever changed reincarnation research, and reminds us that human consciousness may be far more complex and wonderful than we ever imagined.